Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. There's a Scottish councilor who has had it up to here with the secrecy surrounding the UFO phenomenon in the United Kingdom, and he wants the Ministry of Defense and the Army over there to start releasing more information about UFOs, similarly to what's been happening here in the United States. Here's an article from the National. It says here, Scottish councillor demands government inquiry into UFOs. Scottish councillor and a prominent ufologist are demanding that Rishi Sunak launches a full government inquiry into unidentified flying objects in the United Kingdom. Billy Buchanan, who represents Bonnybridge and Larbert on Falkirk Council, and paranormal researcher Malcolm Robinson have traveled down to 10 Downing Street with a simple message. The Pentagon in America has finally and openly declared to the American public that yes, UFOs are real. It is now time for the British government to do the same. Now, as we know, I believe this is what, I'm going to stop there for a second. I believe what the situation here is and has been for a long time is that the United States and its allies, the United States has taken the lead on this issue. Well, and there are a lot of other countries that are involved. A lot of the allies, its top ally, of course, is the United Kingdom, and I believe that they basically take their orders in those countries from the secret control group. I think that's been something that's been ongoing for a long time, and we have not seen much coming from the United Kingdom at all. Pretty much denial for the most part. And it's time that they start releasing some information too about what's going on with UFOs. Anyway, the article continues. It says the Pentagon released its much awaited unidentified aerial phenomenon report in June 2021. It found that 144 observations of UAP by the U.S. Armed Forces, 143 were unexplained, and 18 exhibited unusual flight characteristics. The report made no mention of any extraterrestrial activity and concluded that the lack of high-quality reporting on the events hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions. Let me just stop there for a second. With some of these things, I think it's pretty easy to draw some firm conclusions with the characteristics of these objects and how they operate. Obviously, they're not made by anybody here. We don't have that sort of technology, things that could travel at ridiculous speeds and then stop on a dime and then go off in another direction at ridiculous speeds. We don't have that kind of stuff. So I think it's... we could draw some firm conclusions. We could have drawn those. We were drawing those firm conclusions. Actually, there were a lot of people who drew those firm conclusions back in the late 1940s, as we all know. There were most certainly people within the Pentagon who believed that the extraterrestrial hypothesis is what was behind that explained a lot of these things early on, and that still stands today, even though they don't want to talk about it. Continuing here, it says U.S. lawmakers also heard firsthand accounts of UFO sightings from former members of the military in July. Retired Major David Grush told Congress the United States is concealing a long-standing program that retrieves and reverse engineers UFOs, and that the United States likely has been aware of non-human activity since the 1930s. The Pentagon denied claims of a cover-up. Well, of course, the Pentagon denies the claims of the cover-up. That's what they do. When it comes to UFOs, the Pentagon has always denied that extraterrestrials are responsible. They've always denied crash retrievals. They've always denied Roswell. They've always denied reverse engineering programs. They don't know anything about that stuff. Continuing here, it says, here's a direct quote from Robinson. He says, I have been a UFO and paranormal researcher for more than 40 years, and in this time I have collected a vast amount of data, which has shown me that the subject of UFOs is most certainly real. I accept that the vast majority of UFO reports can easily be identified as having natural explanations, but not them all. And I want to stop there. I always say that, too. I mean, I think any serious UFO investigator, UFO researcher, or anybody who's just interested in the subject firmly believes that a vast majority of these sightings are most certainly there are prosaic explanations behind them. I don't think anybody denies that. The only ones who don't who believe that prosaic explanations are behind all of it are people who are debunkers. And anyway, Robinson goes on. He says, Billy and I are demanding that the British government open up its own files from both the Ministry of Defense and the Armed Forces. The UFO situation is not just an American phenomenon. It's a global one. Yes, it very much is. And then it talks about Scotland's very own UFO hotspot. Roswell, New Mexico is probably the first location that springs to mind when you think about UFO hotspots, not Bonnybridge. Let me just stop there for a second. I don't think that people look at Roswell as a UFO hotspot. That's where a crash occurred near there in 1947, but I don't think that we look at it as a hotspot. Hotspots are places where they continually seem to show up, like, for instance, off the coast of California or places like that, where there are hotspots throughout the world where it seems like UFOs are always being spotted. But I don't think that Roswell is a UFO hotspot. That's just an error on the writer's behalf. It says here, but the small village 4 miles west of Falkirk is now known as the UFO capital of the UK, if not the world. One of the most well-known sightings in the village occurred in 1992. Local businessman James Walker stopped his car on a country road and after reportedly spotting a shining star-shaped object blocking his way, which then took off at great speed. This sparked a media frenzy, with Bonnybridge quickly becoming a well-known UFO hotspot as TV crews from throughout the world filmed documentaries probing the increasing amount of sightings in the once sleepy town. Village residents and visiting UFO enthusiasts have since reported nearly 300 sightings every year over the past 3 decades. Now that's a hotspot. That most certainly is a hotspot. Buchanan was first elected as councilor for the area in 1992. He told the Sunday National that he was overwhelmed by the number of locals suddenly coming to him to tell of strange sightings and lights in the sky above Bonnybridge. Buchanan wrote to the Ministry of Defense asking for an investigation, but was rebuffed. He also approached his local MP, who told him, "Look, you're a lunatic for getting involved with this. It will ruin you. I'm telling you to walk away from this." So there we go. He goes to an official, and he gets told, "You're a lunatic. Don't look into this. You'll ruin yourself. You'll ruin your career." Anybody who looks into UFOs, anybody who wants to talk about UFOs, they're going to ruin their whole career. You'll never your political career will be completely smashed into a million pieces if you continue this course. Anyway, continuing here, it says, but Buchanan wasn't deterred. He said, "I'm elected to represent the people. I have hundreds of people coming to me and seeing these strange lights in the sky, so I'm trying to ascertain exactly what it is. But I had nay a clue. I'm not a ufologist. I'm just a wee counselor for an area of about 6,000 people." And Buchanan also went on to say that they're ready for the truth. He enlisted the help of ufologist Robinson. The pair have since appealed to every prime minister, calling for an urgent probe, except Liz Truss, who wasn't there long enough. The counselor claims to have been witness to several sightings himself since, including a gigantic flying object over Grangemouth oil refinery. And it hasn't always been easy. I went through all the trauma, standing for election and being ridiculed. I've been a counselor for nearly 31 years, and I've never stopped in my quest to get an answer. He added, "We are ready for the truth." Now, let me just stop there. I got to give this guy a lot of credit, this Buchanan. He doesn't care. He's doing the right thing. I mean, he knows it's real. Like why do we have to play why are there so many people so afraid of speaking the truth? I mean, because of the stigmatization program that's been instigated a long time ago and still in operation today. That's why. The way these people look at this, that means if you see a UFO, that means you're crazy. Some people still look at it this way. It's unbelievable. Robinson says they're not naive and realize that the majority of sightings will be easily explainable. He added, "But there is a lot that can't be. In 2023, I'm convinced of the reality that mankind is dealing with some form of non-human intelligence." Yes, there's no question about it. We are dealing with some form of non-human intelligence, and it's time for our government officials who are keeping the secret to finally start showing us what they have. And that goes for the United Kingdom, too. So the United Kingdom needs to get on the ball here. And they should. I don't know how this works. I don't know how this secret control group works. But again, I believe that for some reason, sometime in the past, the United States has taken the lead on this, and the Allies just followed suit. And the UK is probably waiting for permission from somebody. But they're not. If they're waiting for permission from the secret control group in the United States, they ain't gonna get it. That's one thing I can say for sure. So I think it's going to be a tough fight to get this, to pry this any sort of UFO materials from the Ministry of Defense or the Army. Anyway, he continues here. He says, "We demand transparency, and we hope that Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has the guts to implement a full government inquiry into the UFO situation in Great Britain. For not to do so would be in keeping with his election promise to serve the people of this country with openness and clarity." Yeah. Yeah, when politicians tell you that they're going to be open in their once they take office, and they're going to let the public know everything that they should know, and then they get in office and then nothing ever happens. Think about Jimmy Carter, for instance. I don't know something he said he was going to open up all the UFO files for investigators once he took office, but when he took office, that didn't happen. Instead, there's a story, as we all know, that he had some briefing with somebody from the Pentagon, and after that about UFOs, and after that briefing, somebody saw him crying. So who knows? Who knows what Jimmy Carter learned, and who knows why once these people get into office, they realize, oh, can't say anything about that. What prevents the people who are elected to top positions in governments across the world? What prevents them once they get there? I mean, are they told anything? They have to be told something about this, right? Probably not all of it, but they have to be told something. I mean, and then something prevents them from ever telling the truth to the people about it. What is it? We want to know. Anyway, continuing here, it says, "There are few indications that the United Kingdom government will release any new files or information. In June 2021, following the publishing of the Pentagon UAP report, a defense minister, Baroness Goldie, was asked to reassure the public that the Ministry of Defense was taking the issue seriously. She responded, "The Ministry of Defense deals with actual threats substantiated by evidence. The government continues to take any potential threat to the UK seriously." And the Ministry of Defense did not return they have not been contacted for comment, it says here. Or has been contacted for comment, but they didn't return their call. But the thing is here, yeah, they give you some sort of a line like this. The government continues to take potential threats to the UK seriously. They never tell you anything. It's nothing. It's the same kind of stuff we hear here in the United States, hear from the Pentagon on a regular basis. There's nothing out there, nothing to worry about. There's no threats. We see no threats to national security here. That's been the line for a long time. Now the line basically is, we're investigating to see if there's any threats to national security, but we don't see any threats to national security. That's how it always is, isn't it? But anyhow, I got to applaud that councilor there from Scotland to do this. You know, it takes guts. You know, still. I mean, it's a shame it takes this kind of. You know, it's a shame that you're going to be dragged through the mud when you want to get information about UFOs. But this guy doesn't care. He's doing what he's supposed to do. That's, you know, he's being truthful, he's being honest, and he's doing what the people want him to do. Some of his constituents are seeing UFOs on a regular basis, so he wants more information about them from the country's government. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. There should never have been anything wrong with it. But unfortunately, you think about people like the late Barry Goldwater, who asked, I think it was General Curtis LeMay about UFOs one time, and he got screamed out about it. Never asked me about that stuff again. That's how these things are. When politicians try to get answers, sometimes they're basically screamed at, hollered at, threatened. Don't you ever say anything? You know. Think about Admiral Thomas Wilson. You know, he what he told Eric Davis in those Davis Wilson notes. He said, "Hey, you know, if you continue with this, if you try to go any further with this, we're going to remove some of your stripes. We're going to demote you. You're going to lose your pension, blah, blah, blah." Threats. This is, for whatever reason, this needs to stay a secret for the people in charge, for the people that we put in control of us, which still, to me, to this day, I still can't stand the idea. I hate the idea that we elect certain people to office, and we put these people in office. They put other people in the military. There are generals, they're unelected officials, by the way, that for some reason have control. It doesn't make any sense to me. It does just none of this makes any sense to me. We're the ones who put them in control. We want answers about this, not lies, not lies. But see, they don't look at us like they're serving us. They think, to me, it seems like they're serving themselves by keeping this a secret. That's what it feels like to me. Anyway, Moving on, I guess it was earlier. I guess probably about March. There was a story. The name of the person who actually took the picture of the Calvine UFO back in the early '90s. That in 1990, by the way, actually. The name of the person emerged, and they were looking. People are looking for this guy. They want to get more information from him. Of course, the Calvine UFO was a famous picture taken. It was taken in 1990 in Perthshire. It's known as the Calvine photo, and it finally emerged thanks to the research of Dr. David Clark, who I've talked about before here on this podcast. He's a really good investigator. However, he doesn't seem to subscribe at all to the extraterrestrial hypothesis. But anyway, he came up with that picture last year. After a lot of research, years of digging into that, and he had a great article. There was some good articles about that. But it was unknown who the two guys were that saw this object floating over a hillside in Scotland back in 1990. But then earlier this year, the name of the person who snapped the photo emerged. And to this day, they still don't know where this guy is. And I find that funny. And there's another article here. I find this funny. After 6 months ago, I guess it was March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months ago that they were talking about this. And still this guy has not emerged. His name's Kevin Russell. And he's the one who took this Calvine UFO picture. And it said, here's an article from the Daily Record. It says, one of Scotland's biggest UFO mysteries remains unsolved despite important clue. And it goes on to say, one of the world's biggest UFO mysteries remains unsolved months after investigators said a Scot could hold an important clue. The Daily Record revealed earlier this year that a young Glaswegian, I guess I'm not pronouncing that right, called Kevin Russell, was the photographer behind one of the clearest UFO pictures ever taken. The image, taken in 1990 in Perthshire, was known as the Calvine photo, was sent to the Ministry of Defense but disappeared. It remains at the center of a mystery after a certified copy of the photo emerged last year, showing a diamond-shaped object in the sky above the A9 near Calvine. And the article goes on to say, investigators revealed photographer Kevin's identity in a bid to track down the Pillow Tree Hydro Hotel porter, who they believe can help solve the mystery of the world's best ever UFO photo. It is understood Kevin is yet to be traced. Now that is very strange. Where is this person? You would think that somebody would have located him by this point, alive or dead. I mean, he has to still be out there, right? Somebody has to have some information on this photographer. That says here, the 100-foot-long aircraft was said to have hovered above the A9 for around 10 minutes before soaring off at a high speed when buzzed by Royal Air Force jets, leaving Kevin and a friend terrified. After the Daily Record reported Kevin could have a vital clue in the mystery, former BBC Horizon producer Simon Holland came forward and revealed his own investigation into the Calvine incident. He said the evidence suggests that defense firm British Aerospace were developing a classified radar-busting defense system which may have involved a secret diamond-shaped aircraft escorted by privately owned Harrier jets. Okay, now let me just stop here for a minute. They're talking about this Holland guy. I've seen him on YouTube. He tries to debunk. He's a debunker. He's a debunker dressed in the costume of Albert Einstein. I guess that's what he looks like to me. He's tried to debunk the Rendlesham Forest incident from the early 1980s, but he's one, again, just like your regular debunker out there, your run-of-the-mill debunker. He leaves out a lot of critical information in an effort to shoehorn his theory into plausibility, which it just doesn't work. And here's another case which I don't think it works here, because if it was some sort of a top-secret project, some sort of a plane that was being developed by British Aerospace, I mean, we can't have things. We don't have things that do the things as described. I mean, it could be, unless the description of what happened with this Calvine UFO isn't really true. Like, according to these people, it hovered there for 10 minutes before shooting off at an incredible speed straight up in the sky and disappearing. Now, I don't care what Simon Holland or any other debunker tells you. We don't have that kind of technology. We definitely didn't have that kind of technology back in 1990. That's absolutely absurd. Okay, that's just absurd. I don't buy that one bit. But anyway, here, continuing with this article, it says, in an appeal to trace Kevin, investigator Matthew Ilsley previously told the record the identity of Kevin Russell, the photographer, remained a secret for 33 years until now. We would very much like him to come forward to confirm once and for all that what we saw was real. The Calvine incident remains one of the most confounding UFO mysteries in history. They may not prove there is life on Mars, but no one has ever argued that. The more likely truth lies with human aircraft advancements that were covered up by the Ministry of Defense and U.S. intelligence agencies. He added, this case is not about little green men or an aerial Loch Ness monster. It's potentially a piece of military history that can be unlocked once and for all. Well, let's just stop here again. Now, this Matthew Ilsley, okay, I don't know how you could say that. I mean, what's wrong with the extraterrestrial hypothesis? It's most likely military project. Okay, that's fine. No, there's no most likely. You have no idea. There's no information to tell you. There's nothing out there that really states this. I don't care who you. Doesn't matter what kind of where you are on the debunker scale, right? It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is it could be extraterrestrial. We just don't know. I don't know what it is. It could be extraterrestrial. It could be some sort of a secret project that the Ministry of Defense didn't want to talk about, and that's why there's still no real information about it. We just don't know. But I don't see how you could just say, well, it's most certainly not it's the little green men. Oh my gosh. You always have to make it sound silly. Well, it's that there's nothing wrong with the extraterrestrial hypothesis, because guess what, buddy? There are extraterrestrials here. I don't care what you think or what you believe. It doesn't matter. There's something here. Do your research. Anyway, continuing here. Hotel colleagues who were tracked down said Kevin returned to Glasgow in the early 90s, and Ilsley believes Kevin would be in his 50s now. UFO hunters carried out exhaustive research but were unable to track down Kevin. They contacted 150 Kevin Russells in Britain, Australia, the US, and Canada, but had no luck. The Calvin file should have been released after 30 years in 2021, Ilsley said, but the release of key details were blocked until 2076 by the Ministry of Defense due to privacy concerns. Some UFO experts believe the object is a secret U.S. reconnaissance aircraft named Aurora, a silent supersonic spy craft. Last year, it was revealed the former Ministry of Defense press officer Craig Lindsay had kept a copy of the original image as he had worked on the case at the time. The photo was produced at the Daily Record's Glasgow office when original prints and negatives were handed to the Ministry of Defense back in 1990. When Lindsay was tracked down, he said, I have been waiting for someone to contact me about this for more than 30 years. It is widely believed that the Calvine photo is real, and a UFO investigator who has worked with the Ministry of Defense, David Clark, said a source confirmed so. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this article, but I'll leave the link so you can check it out for yourself. But I guess the whole thing is I don't know what it is, the Calvine UFO. It could be anything. It could be some secret project like some people contend, but it could be extraterrestrial. There's nothing wrong with the extraterrestrial hypothesis when it comes to this thing. I don't see why somebody should be ashamed to say that. Well, it's most certainly not the Loch Ness Monster or little green men. Anybody who believes that stuff's silly. Nobody believes that, right? You got to be really dumb to believe that. No, that's not the way this should be had. It could be anything. Could be from outer space. We don't know. Doesn't look like anything that humans would make, for one thing. But again, I think it would be very beneficial to all of us if somebody could locate Kevin. Where's Kevin? It's time to come clean on this one. Let's hear about what he has to say. He was the one who was there, the actual witnesses. It's always interesting. Now, that's the story from the witnesses. That's the story that's been handed down. We've heard about this, that hovered there for 10 minutes and it shot straight up in the sky, okay? However, we haven't heard it from the horse's mouth, though, right? I'd like to hear it from the horse's mouth. Even when you do, right? Say this guy is found, and he does talk publicly about it and says, tells us a same story that we've been hearing for a long time, that this thing was hovering there and then shot straight up at an incredible speed. Then you're going to hear people like Simon Holland and other debunkers say, then they're lying. Then the person who's there that actually sees these things, right, to a debunker, right? Well, that doesn't fit my narrative, so that means this guy's not telling the truth, or he's misremembering it, or he's fantasizing, or he's silly, or maybe he was drunk, or something like that. But that didn't happen because it can't happen. That doesn't fit my narrative. So guess what? I'm going to say something else now about this. You know, I'm going to say, well, it's still military because I don't believe anything. I don't believe there's anything coming here from other planets because that's just the way I am. That's how these people are. Like, they just can't accept it. They can't accept it. The Simon Hollands of the world are incapable of accepting the reality of the extraterrestrial presence, despite the mountains of evidence at this point. They rather find other excuses to explain these things. Anyway, there's another article here I want to go through. It says here, investigators divided over new theory about Perthshire UFO sighting. Now, this is from the Courier UK, and this was from March of this year, earlier this year. And it says, a photo taken at Calvine in August 1990 shows a diamond-shaped object hovering in the skies above. The image appears to show a jet flying alongside it, but so far no one has come forward to explain the full story behind the picture. And then they get into the Kevin Russell stuff, but then it gets into the some of the Simon Holland comments here. It says he believes the machine may have been a radar-busting stealth aircraft under development from British airspace. Mr. Holland says that says this is based on the fact that the Ministry of Defense has previously said no known Harrier jets were in the area at the time. He said, I discovered that the only other British Harriers were privately owned by BAE Systems, the defense contractor. They used their Harriers as multi-role defense test platforms testing BAE advanced technology. I dug deeper and found that Marconi Advanced Materials, based inside BAE headquarters at Wharton, Lancashire, were probably working on an advanced stealth skin material for the United States Air Force. And then Strafe Wilson, a paranormal investigator, is not convinced. He says, Mr. Wilson claims that a witness statement which he obtained through the Ministry of Defense through a Freedom of Information request goes against Mr. Holland's theory. The statement describes the object as hovering for about 10 minutes before ascending vertically upward at high speed. Mr. Wilson told the Courier it's very unlikely that either the UK or US had such advanced technology then, because we certainly have not seen it by now. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Now, the debunkers will put out these ridiculous statements that go against what the witnesses describe. Now, again, this is coming from information. We don't know exactly where they got this information. It was from somebody within the Ministry of Defense. Who in the Ministry of Defense, the researcher doesn't say. But he received some information saying that's what they observed. It was hovering there for 10 minutes and then shot straight up in the sky at a ridiculous rate of speed. And anyway, continuing here, Wilson continues. He says, we would have had a glimpse during the Gulf War, Afghanistan, Syria, even Ukraine. We can never even rule it out. Secret black budget projects do exist, but something as advanced as the witness's statement claims it's highly unlikely. We don't even have that technology now. If BAE Systems had something like that in the 90s, we would have seen it by now. Exactly. Yeah, we're talking over 30 years ago now. Over 30 years ago. If they would have had something like that, we would have saw it by this point. However, then it goes on to some more Matthew Ilse comments. He was in the other article that we were talking about. But I wanted to point that out. You see, the debunkers, they can't use, they always keep out some of the pertinent information for when they put forward any of their hypothesis. But then when you show the complete story, the complete eyewitness accounts and all of that, the hypotheses thrown out by some of these debunkers like Simon Holland, they fall to pieces. They just crack up into a million pieces. But yeah, whatever. I just don't. I guess I don't understand this. Why they do this or what the purpose of this is. I mean, I guess I feel like it's a constant gaslighting from so many different people, from the people in militaries, from the debunkers. It's just a constant gaslighting. You see the picture, that Calvine UFO. I mean, I don't know. That doesn't look earthly to me. I don't know what. It doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before. You have some people saying it's a hoax. I mean, they can't accept it. They just can't accept it. There's some people out there that don't want to accept it. They can't accept it. And then you have the militaries of the world lying about these things and keeping the reality, the secrets that they have shut away in files away from everyone. They won't let you see them for whatever reason, which is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, I want to say thank you for joining me. Until next time.